In today's video, we are going to talk about the truth. The real truth. There's a lot of people out there that, of course, love to say, I've woken up and I see the truth now because of Q and all, la, 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 la. Well, I'm going to show you today the truth that's been right in front of you this entire time and that 99% of my audience has been completely blind to. Now, we're going to have to start off someplace that's probably not where you think we would, but stick with me and we'll get there. Now we're going to start with a question. Why is it Donald Trump's fault that Americans are so lazy and fat? I mean, clearly, he plays golf all the time, right? So that must be the reason, of course, that Americans are fat and lazy. Now, before anybody of you jumps on the keyboard, that's a ridiculous statement. Of course it's a ridiculous statement. Why is it a ridiculous statement? Because it's not the job of the United States president to decide who eats what, when, and where. Is it? Of course it's not. People make their own decisions. Whoever is in the Oval Office has literally nothing to do with the amount of food on your fork, or where you even choose to get said food to put on your fork. Now, I want to ask you, in that vein, stay with me. How can this then be true? Do presidents of countries run the cafeterias of all of the said country? Of course they don't. So if everybody in America was in shape and all muscled up and ready to go, that would no more be the fault of the president than if they were fat and lazy and sedentary. The two things argue with each other. You see, Venezuela is one of those countries where everything grows down here. There are vast swaths of Venezuela that haven't even been explored, believe it or not. I mean, seriously, no one's ever been there. Impenetrable forests. This is a rainforest. Anybody who would be starving in this country would simply be too lazy to get off the damn couch and go find some food. But that really is the case, because there are areas where people, in fact, were starving. Was it a countrywide thing? No. You see, we proved that a long time ago. You see, there was this meme out there about this group of Venezuelans that were going to go stone this cow to death, right? And that was supposed to be what the Western mainstream media ran with. Forget the fact that there are guns literally everywhere in South America, Venezuela, Colombia. Regardless of the laws, they are everywhere. And to say that this group of people couldn't have found a gun if they had wanted to go shoot the animal is ridiculous. But in this final picture that nobody ever likes to show you, what we covered before is, of course, there's Mr. Lopez Love Handles here. And then there's this guy right here who's carrying what looks to be easy 200 plus pounds of meat over his shoulder. I promise you, you go 48 hours, 72 hours without eating, you ain't picking up this chunk of meat over your shoulder and walking away with it. This was a staged event. Now, here's the thing that's really going to blow your mind. The part of the story that no one gets. And I'm going to show you what happens when the mainstream media gets a hold of your ability to even try to look this up on your own. Now, you type in Venezuela agriculture in a normal, everyday search in Google. Any other search, I don't care whatever engine you want to use, you're going to get this. Okay, and they talk about how people are hungry, but farmers can't feed them, and how oil pushes out Venezuela's agriculture and all this kind of stuff. Well, your key is right here. But if you do another search, exact same terms, but you only go to the tools section and you get results prior to 2010, you hear a completely different story in the search results. See, you get this. Here's what they're not telling you. You see, Chavez saw that when he came into office, there was a transformation going on in the populace of Venezuela. They were becoming sedentary and lazy because of the oil industry. People were getting out of farming and they were taking oil jobs. And the indigenous peoples were not farming anymore. There was no incentive in it. See, this was the effect of the prior pro-US, pro-globalist administrations. All this pro-capitalism that you talk about had this effect on the country. When they let the big oil companies come in and start hiring people and throwing out all these incredible wages and benefits packages, it made Venezuela into a sedentary bunch of sheep that just waited for the food to be delivered to them. And so this is why they started taking vast tracts of land away from the oil companies. The oil companies had just bought it up. It was sitting there fallow, and they're saying, oh, we're going to explore it for oil, when they knew perfectly good well there was no oil there. What they didn't want is there to be any competition for the workforce, so that all of that workforce could work for them, literally driving out any other industry. They wanted to put the people of Venezuela into chains like oil companies do in every place they go. Literally, they were chaining the population of Venezuela to the oil industry to serve them, so that Venezuela had to begin importing food. For a country of 30 million people, the amount of farmland in this country, they should be able to well feed themselves and many, many more countries. But this is what Chavez, you never told this in the mainstream media. You were saying, oh, he expropriated land from private owners and took their land. And what he was trying to do was he was trying to get agriculture started back up in the country again, realizing that their country had fell victim to globalist, big, rich Illuminati oil forces. But of course, you see what he gets for his efforts. The big, nasty S word label. You would just have to be looking for this to know it and understand the culture down there. And so if there's people out there that don't have enough food, or don't have enough to eat, or their resources have dwindled, we can look to big oil. Because if you go look in the news now, oil prices are going through the roof, while the U.S. is setting records for the amount of oil we are shipping out of this country. So there's a whole nice Illuminati, very, very elite group of people in this country that have taken advantage of this this fracking movement to enrich themselves, while Americans pay more and more and more. And they don't care now because of what happened in 2015 and because of the coordinated collapse of this country. It's not going to matter how many fields we frack now, because big oil globalist forces have been able to buffalo the American people into believing that more oil equals good for America, when all it really means is good for oil companies. So when you see stories like this, remember, presidents don't decide what people do or don't eat. Not here, not anywhere. If it were truly the fault of socialism, we would see all sorts of European countries completely falling apart, failing, starving, not having enough to eat there either, with complete and total mayhem through over a dozen countries, not to mention China. who, by the way, communist socialist, owns most of our debt. Another video for another day. It's ridiculous. Absolutely, completely ridiculous story coming out of Venezuela. And when you look at it with complete clarity, you will see exactly how ridiculous it is. So we will leave it there. Like, share, subscribe.